Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And boy, oh boy, we got some changes right before the patch is going live, right before the season is starting, I should say. And is your class going to survive this wave is the real question, because this is going to be the real big teetering point within these next couple of weeks as to who's going to be the bottom and who's going to be the bottom. And if you want to make sure that you're staying up to date with news related to World of Warcraft, then make sure to smash that subscribe button. So let's get started. Unholy Death Knights, you're getting a buff. Your 2-set bonus is being buffed from 3% to 4.5%, so you'll be getting an extra 1.5% damage on Death Coil and Epidemic, and I think that's just going to be great across the game. Although still, 1.5% is not a huge number, but it's definitely better than a negative number, and usually early on in a patch, Death Knights, you guys know the drill. It's usually negative numbers, so we got to take a dub when we got a dub. Havoc Demon Hunters, Eldraki Reaver. Reaver's Mark now increases damage dealt to its target by 6%. So Eldraki looking like it's getting some tweaks here. Seems like players are still playing Fel hero talent build in PvP at least. But I think in PvE players are playing Eldraki, which is what these changes at the top are mostly focused at. Eldraki Reaver, Thrill of the Fight's increase to ability damage, though, is now only 15%. As opposed to 20%, so they're just shifting the damage around, it seems like. Liberation of Undermine 2-set bonus, winning streaks chance to activate increased by 25%. So this seems like a damage shift around and a little bit of a buff. So Demon Hunter's pretty happy about that. I don't know what's going on with Druids, but you PvEers are doing weird stuff on Feral Druid, okay? Because they nerfed your Sunfire damage by 40%, and they nerfed your Moonkin form Mastery by 66%. And hopefully that's only for Feral. I'm going to have to bug check that when I get on my Boomkin, because I ain't trying to lose my mastery over some Feral shape-shifting shenanigans. But apparently people were Boomkin weaving as Feral, and that was a problem, so they nerfed it. I don't think it's going to be a huge consequence, obviously, in PvP. Devastation Evoker. I'd hate to be the guy who gets paid to buff Firestorm, because this ability is never going to get selected. Doesn't matter how many, I don't know how high you got to make this number go for somebody to take it, but it's just... The idea of an AoE circle on the ground that doesn't move is just too dated with modern World of Warcraft. So if they updated it like the Sentinel Owl, where it like followed a target around even just slowly, then maybe. And again, maybe it's not interactive enough with the kit also. I don't spend a huge amount of time with Devastation and PvE. And obviously with Firestorm and PvP, it's kind of a meme to just blow talents in order to get it, unfortunately. Beast Mastery Hunters, your 2-set bonus has been adjusted. Your Barbed Shot will now fire at 100%, down from 200%. So that's a little bit of a nerf. And your 4-set bonus has been adjusted. Potent Mutagen damage reduced by 50% and reduces the cooldown of Beast of Wrath only by 0.25 seconds, down from 0.5. So these are pretty significant nerfs. But in compensation, you're just doing 10% more damage on everything. And I knocked my cup on the floor. Okay, I don't know. That's a buff or a nerf now. Like, I mean, the thing is the set bonuses, at least in PvP, were already nerfed anyways. So it's like, nerfing them by 50% when they're already nerfed by 50%, it's like they're already not consequential. Whereas this flat out 10% buff is just an overall increase. So I feel like in PvP, this is a buff for BM Hunter. Mistweaver Monk, the 4% guy. They got rid of the 3% guy from Dragonflight, and they promoted him to the 4% guy. So 4% healing increase to Mistweaver, kind of unneeded in PvP at least. Even in PvE, I've seen people complain Mistweaver's too good, so a bit surprised to see that. Liberation of Undermine set bonus insurance healing, though, has been decreased by 30%. I think that's good. This set bonus for healers is kind of unhealthy, in my opinion, for the game. It's just like an auto-proc heal when targets get low, typically, for any healer. It's a little bit of a unique interaction depending on the healer, but I don't really like those auto-bubble mechanics, and it kind of falls underneath that umbrella. Discipline Priest. Lenience no longer stacks its damage reduction effect when multiple priests apply atonement to a target. This is really only going to affect you in a raid, maybe in a battleground, but I kind of doubt it. Oracle preventative measures now increases the damage of Penance, Smite, and Holy Nova only by 20%, down from 40%. So we saw big nerfs to the Void Weaver in the last round of updates, and now we're also seeing Oracle getting nerfed. Disc still seemed really good, at least in PvP. This is, though, pretty significant. 20% less penance, 20% less smite damage. Holy Nova is probably non-consequential, though. Assassination, 4% guy hit you up, 4% more extra damage. Subtlety Rogues copped a little bit of a nerf here with Secret Technique going down by 5%. And your 2-set bonus winning streaks, max stacks reduced to 8 from 10. And I don't know if that's a nerf or a buff, because I don't know what it does when it gets to 10. If you get to 8, you get to max stacks faster. If it means that the top end is nerfed because it doesn't go as high, it means a little less burst, but it also means you're getting to the top end faster. So it's depends really on what the set bonus does as to whether or not that's actually a buff or a nerf. For elemental shamans, again, you guys get an essay. Shamans got forgotten in a lot of patches. This time around, you're not getting forgotten. Your they're shifting damage out of your set bonus, it looks like, and into your class, which again in PvP that's going to feel good because your set bonus is already nerfed anyways. Now summons an elemental for 6 seconds down from 8, and the frequency of getting a bonus elemental summon from your spells has been lowered. Damage bonus of lightning bolt, chain lightning, tempest, and lava burst increased to 30% for 8 seconds though, up from 20. So that looks like a buff to me. Deeply rooted elements ascendance procs no longer activate either the 2-piece or the 4-piece bonus of the new Liberation Undermine set. Oh, there's no interactions there. Echo of the elements no longer causes the jackpot buff to refresh when they appear, and you got a 5% damage buff across the board. Ellie is kind of struggling in PvP at the moment, so kind of weird to see how this is going to play out. Maybe this extra 10% on lava burst, but I think losing Primordial Wave was a really big deal for Ellie. As far as its viability, it might even need more than this. For Enhancement Shaman, you guys are getting nerfed again in PvE. Let's see how much of an impact it ends up being in PvP. But in PvE, your 4-set bonus now has a 20% chance to summon an extra spirit when talented into Flowing Spirits. The tooltip will not reflect this until a future patch. And Flowing Spirits now has a 6% chance to summon a Feral Spirit. Flowing Spirits now properly summons a random elemental when Elemental Spirits is talented. Your 4-set bonus now triggers Doom Winds for 3 seconds down from 4. It's interesting to see proc Doom Winds because typically as a shaman, that window, you're like, in PvP, people interact with it, shut it down. But now if you can access Doom Winds outside of that window, whether or not that could actually be really scary. But it's only lasting for 3 from 4 as a nerf. 4-set bonus now increases the damage of Crash Lightning by 12% per stack down from 15. I didn't think this was going to be a big deal in PvP, even with it being like that. And again, I think the set bonus changes are pretty minor in PvP. Liberation of Undermined, 4-set bonus now increases the primary target damage of Crash Lightning only by 75% down from 100%. And Enhance is just getting a lot of attention because it's been so good in PvE for so long. I don't really see this, maybe this Feral Spirits thing in the first couple of weeks when you're still using this set bonus, but I think Enhance it's doing okay. Warlock's got some love. Demonology 4-set bonus has been adjusted. Casting Hand of Gul'dan causes your active Dreadstalkers to cast Dreadbite at 20% effectiveness down from 50. But again, we don't really care about the set bonuses in PvP. The trade-off is that Hand of Gul'dan is going to do 20% more damage. Doomguards summoned by Pact of Ruin are going to deal 15% more damage. Gloomhound's Gloom Slash is going to do 30% more damage. And your Wild Imps are going to do 30% more damage. So a bit more damage here. For Demo, Destruction Warlock, the same deal. They're taking pressure out of or damage out of your set bonus, putting it somewhere else. So your 2-set bonus, your spells and abilities have a chance to hit a jackpot that fires a flurry of 6 demon bolts at 100% effectiveness, down from 200%. Casting Summon Infernal will always hit a jackpot, but you're getting 20% more Chaos Bolt damage, and you're getting 35% more Summon Infernal damage. For Hellcaller, they're going to be nerfing your Soul Shard economy. You're not going to be getting as many Soul Shards. But they're compensating damage in other forms. Your Wither is going to be doing 35% more damage, and it will only be doing damage every 3 seconds. We recognize that this change will also be impacted, so they're distributing the last throughput across the rest of the Hellcaller kit. Hellcaller Black and Soul damage increased by 40%. Zalan's Ferocity now increases fire damage by 4%, up from 2. And Zalan's Cruelty now increases shadow damage by 4%, up from 2. I think this might end up feeling more like a nerf depending on how long it takes to actually get soul shards, right? Like if you just feel like you're running on empty for a while, maybe this feels like a nerf, even though there's 20% more damage on the remaining bolts. And Warriors, you did not get away scot-free. Executor's been nerfed by 15%. In PvE, I'm surprised because a lot of Warriors were like, oh my god, they're already nerfing us. We were just maybe going to have a chance of being viable and they're already nerfing us. And I think this change is a little counteracted later on, but PvP specific changes, they're increasing everyone's stamina by 5%, basically. DPS and tanks are going from 5% to 10%. Healers are going from 10% to 15%. I think it makes sense with how the pacing of the game is currently, so this should likely slow down the potential that you just get completely KO'd. So it makes sense to me. Blood Sand Lane, the damage bonus from Frenzied Bloodthirst is now 50% effective in PvP. Blood DK got nerfed. They're nerfing the tanks, the overperforming tanks. Frosty K's, you are not going to keep this God mode ability for too long. Death's Embrace is being nerfed by basically 50%, from 750 down to 400%. I still think it's going to be insanely strong. Like right now, it's basically like an auto kill. If somebody gets away from it, it's still going to be really good, likely, even despite this. And I don't think it's surprising that they targeted that. Feral Druid is getting nerfed here as well. Berserk now only increases damage by 5%, down from 10%. And your Ferocious Bite is going to do 10% less damage. I was a bit surprised because Feral didn't seem as exacerbated as a lot of the other kind of burst one shots in the game. So this seemed like pretty heavy handed for something that I wasn't really experiencing a lot of. It seemed like a lot of warriors, windwalkers, and hunters, but not really a lot of ferals. Arcane Mage, they're redistributing your damage. I think this is a healthy change. They're taking damage out of Magi, Touch of the Magi, I think, with Magi Spark from 50 to 25, but they're buffing your Arcane Missile and Barrage damage by 12% each respectively. So hopefully it's not just, I have Touch of the Magi, I can win. I don't have Touch of the Magi, I can't win. Because that window has really just never been fun for a class in a lot of terms. So I think these are healthy. They're targeting the overpowered barriers, but it seems like only for fire and frost. And I think it's because they reflect damage. So it only reflects 60% of the damage down from 100. I think it's a bigger nerf for fire. I think this talent was kind of carrying Fire Mage because everybody targets you. And most of your damage is coming from reflected damage. So this actually might be pretty significant. Frost will also feel that. But I feel like Frost ends up not getting attacked as much because melee generally just can't stick to it. For Mistweaver, the Crackling Jade has been nerfed, and this thing was killing people like 100-0 and lay enhancing people. So again, I'm not surprised, much like the DK talent, going down from 2,500% increase to 1,250% increased. Windwalker, Slicing Winds also got a nerf by 20% less damage. It crits roughly around like 1.9 to 2 million at the moment, so about 400k damage loss. It's still going to hit really hard. I think it's still going to be really fun. And you also won't be able to cast it while you're in a route. Apparently people were getting your roots for free. Warriors, I feel like you guys are probably the most hit by these changes. Mortal Strike is getting a 25% reduction, and Demolish's final hit is getting a 30% reduction. Execute's getting a compensatory buff for the 15% nerf, so it's going up about 5% overall. But I think the Mortal Strike is definitely going to be felt the most on this. For Fury Warrior, same case. Rampage and Bladestorm are getting 15% damage reductions. Prot Warrior catching the biggest nerfs at 15% all ability damage and 20% onto Execute. And they hotfixed some emergency changes in, which I think they updated that onto the top side also with the updates coming into this. So it seems like Warriors, you guys got hit the hardest, definitely, which is unfortunate because I feel like your kit baseline might really struggle, but at the same time, you guys are really obnoxious. So I was surprised that there was no hunter changes at all. I'm expecting that this is going to be like the wild, wild west of changes moving into the future. So once again, if you want to stay up to date with news related to World of Warcraft, then make sure to smash the subscribe button. Your support is greatly appreciated on my long-term journey of getting to 100,000 subscribers, doing it as a mostly PvP focused streamer, news related streamer. It's hard mode on YouTube, so I appreciate your guys' support along this ride as we continue the grind. So thank you, and I will see you in the next one.